Hey guys, Tom LoBianco here, national politics reporter, 24 Site News, here with Patrick Pfingsten, the Illinois. Patrick, what is up?
How are you, my friend?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
27 days.
27.
And then whatever the hell happens after that.
Yeah. 27 stretches into a lifetime, perhaps. In the darkest scenarios that we're looking at here.
You're really bringing it up. Really making us feel better. Optimistic. Optimistic is your middle name.
There's real politic, and then there's false hope. So let's do a little lightning round. Top four.
Sure.
Let's hit it right at the top. All right, man. Hurricane recovery, back to back. What the hell's going on with this?
Is this all politics, or is this just how deranged and crazy people have become? If you want to criticize the Biden administration for, preparedness or funding or whatever it might be, there are always perfectly reasonable policy discussions we can have about something. But this is beyond policy. This is just crazy bullshit.
Yeah.
To think that people's homes in North Carolina are being confiscated by the government to go mine lithium, or that they're withholding support from Republican areas. I grew up in a very Republican county in rural Illinois. I think Trump got 78% the last election there. In 2008, early 2008, my grandmother lost her house in a flood, and the whole town was ravaged.
Wow.
And FEMA got rave reviews for how they responded to that crisis. It wasn't perfect, of course. There were the application delays and some of that stuff, but essentially the town would have just been leveled without the help of the federal government and the SBA. And it is amazing to me that, in the Facebook world, some of the loudest people that were complaining about FEMA this week were people from that same town that got ravaged by a flood.
Really?
16 years ago.
Wow.
Do you have no memory?
Wow.
Do you not know what happened in your own town?
Wow.
It's this level of crazy is so pervasive now that it's hard to even talk to people about it. Like, here are the facts. Here are the funny. There's a difference between foreign aid or what we're doing with Ukraine and the money that's going into FEMA.
Right.
And FEMA hasn't come to the Congress and said, we need more money for Helene and Milton. They will.
Right.
Because Milton's going to probably knock half of Florida down.
It looks bad.
But what the hell has happened here? I mean, this is more than just a Trump thing, right? This is more than just misinformation. This is a pervasive doubt in our institutions. And I don't know how we get this back.
How responsible is Zuckerberg for this? Forget Musk for a second. He was obviously out to lunch. Where does Zuckerberg fall in this? Because he used to be considered one of the more responsible ones.
No, I mean, Facebook has been a cesspool of crazy for a long time, and they cracked down on some of the vaccine nonsense, the COVID isn't real nonsense, and got a ton of pushback for that in some circles. But is it just amplification of what people are seeing? Is it because Facebook puts in the algorithm that if you get 10 likes, you're going to get put into more people's feeds. If you get 50 likes, you're going to get put into more people's feeds. If you get 10 comments, you're going to 10 times the amount of people that see it. So it rewards the most overtly outlandish stuff.
Right.
And I don't talk politics on Facebook literally at all. I've told people I reserve my Facebook for pictures of my kid and my dog,
Yeah.
because I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
But this is where people get their news.
Right.
And I've
Right.
often found myself having to send someone a message and saying, "Hey, dude, that is just not true."
Right.
And you got to know better. And there are smart people out there that fall into some really stupid stuff.
I frankly, I avoid Facebook, and I have been for years.
Is it a tech problem, or is it a societal problem that we're so stupid that we fall for this stuff?
We have to adjust to the technology. It's part of our reality. These guys are the new robber barons of this age. Musk, Thiel, Zuckerberg.
But there are people who are pushing these crazy conspiracies that should know better, that are better than this. We're talking members of Congress who should be more responsible about how the federal government is responding. Ted Budd from North Carolina is the senator for that state,
Yes.
and he's amplifying some of this bullshit. Marjorie Taylor Greene with they control the weather. Who's they? Is that Jews or is that Joe Biden? I don't. And there are people who fall for this stuff.
Yeah.
I look at
Marjorie Taylor
Greene. What can we do to help these people? Well, how do we bring down Biden Harris for this? Or how do we expose the government as criminals? What the hell happened?
It's terrible. It got incentivized. I look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I approach this as just a regular reporter, the same way I'd approach any other source. And, am I going to quote her in anything? And the answer is no, because at best I can tell, she has no concept of what's real or what's not when she's talking. I can't get into the reasoning behind that. I do not live in her head. It's impossible to know if she's. That's a scary thought, by the way. That's. But I avoid interacting on any of that stuff that she puts out there for that reason. Because as a professional, I have no way of verifying anything that she says. And usually, demonstrably, it's wrong. It's inaccurate. It's bad information. And I don't know why she does it that way. Maybe it's possible she is missing some brain cells and does not understand this stuff. Maybe she does believe it. I don't
fact
know.
check something that's not in the basis of reality.
Right. Right, exactly. I remember when the old Congressman Denver Riggleman got raked for talking about Sasquatch porn, which was hilarious. And I think that was like, God, what was that, like a decade ago or maybe, 10 years ago, something like that. And, of course, that was ridiculous back then. Now I look at it, and it's the kind of thing I wonder, am I going to see that in Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG's Twitter feed, and then I'm going to be getting questions about it, and that's where we are right now. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
We got to be better.
We got to do better. All right, man. What's your take on so a couple weeks ago, it was not that long ago that we were talking about Kamala Harris needs to get out and do more interviews. She's finally doing it. Now, I would argue, of course, that these are not, deep, tough, substantive news interviews.
60 Minutes was.
60
Minutes was.
Yeah, that was a good
Howard
one.
Stern's not. Howard Stern in a suit, by the way, is uncomfortable.
That is strange.
But other than 60 Minutes, though, you're right. It has not been the Call Her Daddy podcast. I mean, that's where voters are going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
If you're looking for sophomore girls at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, I guess. I was having this debate with your friend Bill Scher the other day on the radio. That
love Bill. He's great.
I appreciate that she's doing more. I thought her 60 Minutes interview was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think she still doesn't really have any idea how to handle the cost of living crisis.
Good point.
which she still doesn't have an answer on, and kind of started to go back to the price control idea that she initially floated, that got
Right.
banned by everybody when
Right.
Bill Whitaker was really pressing her on it. But I don't know if she's talking to the right audiences here,
Mm,
because
yeah.
how many undecided voters in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, whatever, are those undecided voters listening to Call Her Daddy,
No.
or are they listening to Howard Stern? Or if you're putting up with the daily dose of Whoopi Goldberg and crowd on The View, you're probably already decided.
Yeah.
Colbert's made his name on attacking Trump the last 10 years.
Stern, I could see potentially getting to some undecideds. He's got a huge audience.
Just I would say Stern was probably the most effective in terms of undecided men, and
Yes.
maybe cutting into that middle-aged men category
Mhm.
that Harris may have struggled with a little bit. But she's not doing local news. Like, why is she not
That's
sitting
right.
down with every TV reporter in Milwaukee and Madison every time she goes to those states?
Right.
Why isn't she doing a sit down on KDKA in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Why is she not talking about the issues that matter locally with local media?
She should be sitting down with our old friend, Matt Smith, who used to be a Indiana State House guy, is now up in, Milwaukee. There's a great, politics show up there, and, absolutely.
You
And
know,
then, obviously, Matt would press her for some news, but also it's guaranteed to be a little bit more substantive than what you're going to get on the national stage, where you're going to be asked about, what Marjorie Taylor Greene is using, Jewish space lasers to cook this time.
no. So I don't. I mean, clearly the Harris campaign thinks that the path to victory here is by convincing those undecideds, those moderates, those independents, those disaffected conservatives, the people like me, the disaffected conservatives,
Exactly.
to break late for her.
Yes.
But she still has to convince them to do that, because if they were going to break for her
Mm,
just based on the fact that she's not Donald Trump, they would have broken already.
yeah.
And so she has to give them a reason to vote for her. And I don't know that she's done that,
Do
because
you
there's
think
so
the
few policy specifics from her at this point.
do you think the Liz Cheney tandem? I mean, she's been on the campaign trail with Harris together almost more than, I mean, it's traditional to be their running mate and the top of the ticket will campaign separately. But I mean, she almost looks more like the member of the ticket than Tim Walz does
Well, they only
these
did the
days.
one event, didn't they? Or did they do more than
I
that?
feel like they've been doing more. I might have that wrong, but or maybe I'm
I
just seeing
think the
more
only
coverage
event
of
they've
it.
actually been on the stage together for was the one in Ripon, Wisconsin
Yeah.
last week, which was great, by the way. And I have my heart sings for Liz Cheney, because she's one of the last remaining honest brokers out there, and who is so more demonstrably conservative than Trump, that it's so funny that she's the one painted as a rhino now.
Right.
That 10 years ago she was the one considered too conservative to serve
Right.
in this Republican Party.
Well, let's get. I mean,
So
let's go deep on this, man. Do you think that is the Republican Party conservative anymore?
no, the Republican Party is Trump.
Hmm.
The Republican Party is Trump. That's it. I mean, it's not about policy. It's not about morals. It's not about vision. It's about who serves Donald Trump. And who does Donald Trump serve?
Yeah.
Donald Trump. His whims of each day. So
Wow.
no, it's not a conservative party. It's not a pro-life party anymore. It's not a it's low tax simply because that makes Trump's financiers happy.
Yep.
It's not a peace through strength. It's an isolationist party. It's not the party that we knew it to be,
It is.
and the
Yep.
party
Right.
that I grew up in, right?
Yeah.
And it's so Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, and Adam's a friend of mine, and I think the world of him, and I proud as hell of him for standing up for what's right. But there are these conservatives who are off on an island. And I get why they're coming out to say, Harris is the only option because she's not Donald Trump, essentially. I come at this where I look at this like I live in a blue state. I live in Illinois.
Right.
Donald Trump has lost Illinois by more than 1 million votes twice. He's probably going to do it again.
Right.
So it's not like my vote particularly matters in the presidential election. So Harris hasn't really done anything policy wise to make me say she's great, other than she's not Donald Trump. I've been happy in the way that she's talked about foreign policy. Like her convention speech was practically hawkish.
Yeah.
I like the small business tax credit. I don't hate the child tax credit, but there's so little depth on so many issues from her. It's even less depth than you got from Obama in 2008, and that was a almost depth-free campaign.
She has to give the affirmative for folks to come off the bench and cast a vote for her. And that's
I don't
how
know that she's done that.
She hasn't. Well, okay, so let's hit on this issue then, because this is related. We were talking about this earlier. She seems to be trying to distance herself from Biden, and her, and this kind of gets into the whole, who is a change agent in this race, which is ironic because you have a sitting vice president who, and a former president. And the sitting vice president seems to be carrying the mantle of change agent better than the former president right now. What's the thinking here? Number one, is she eschewing Biden and her time in the administration?
I know that she doesn't want to offend Biden. I know that she still has an affinity for him, at least publicly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe behind the closed doors, she thinks he's a senile old man who needs to go away.
Mm-hmm.
But publicly, she's still supportive or at least kind in her words to him. But that doesn't mean that she can't separate herself on a few different things. Like she wouldn't hurt anybody's feelings if she said, I supported the Afghanistan withdrawal, but we didn't do it right. Like, would that hurt Joe Biden's legacy? Everyone knows they didn't do it right.
Right.
Joe Biden knows they didn't do it right.
Right.
So why is it so hard for her to say, I don't think that we did this one thing perfectly. Or I don't think that we, whatever it might be. We didn't put enough for XYZ in the Inflation Reduction Act to actually reduce prices.
Right.
Which she can hit Congress for because it was a congressional action.
Right.
There are ways for her to provide a little bit of separation. I think the Afghanistan withdrawal is the perfect place to do it because Biden, even deep down in his heart, knows they screwed that up.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you? I get that she wants to be deferential. She wants to be kind to the guy that put her on the ticket. But the reality is you got to win. If you don't win, it doesn't matter what Joe Biden did.
Yeah.
Or even if she said he probably should have signed his executive order on the border sooner. Does that hurt anybody's feelings? Does that make Joe Biden's legacy poof go away? No. It just says I probably would have done that a little bit differently.
Well, obviously, you're seeing, I'll throw a little devil's advocacy in here, but, you're seeing this from the right side of things. She's got ideologically speaking, this is a big tent for her and for what they're trying to do with the Democrats here in this ticket. If you do that, let's say you say even harder on immigration, that he screwed up by waiting on this action. Do you lose support on the other side of the coalition?
Lawn guys just showed up, so I apologize for that. But the
I don't hear anything. Nothing's coming through.
Good, perfect. I hear it. The reality, I think, is that she has problems on the left too, especially in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
This issue with Israel and Palestine and Gaza,
Yes.
and the issues with an Arab population, and is it Dearborn or is it Flint, wherever
Dearborn's a big one. Yep.
that if enough of these people stay home,
Mm-hmm.
that could cost her on election day in Michigan.
Yeah.
And that's so. Yeah, I mean, she has to keep that coalition together. She has to keep Biden's coalition together, and I think she's been relatively. She has not been nearly as pro-Israel as Biden has been,
Right.
but she certainly hasn't been like the pro-Hamas wing of the party. The Rashida Tlaibs and Delia Ramirez is out there who are basically just like repeating pro-Hamas talking points, which is incredibly disturbing in many cases, that this is a legitimate terrorist organization. We can beef with Bibi all day long because he certainly has made big mistakes here. But
what do you think's going on with Netanyahu? I mean,
don't know,
there's the big Woodward book is out, or it's about to hit. We're starting to see some of the early takes out of there.
Did you get a copy of it yet?
It's I think does it publish next week? I think, is that right?
I think so. I haven't seen specifically, but I've heard some of the excerpts are ugly.
What is going on with Netanyahu? Because I mean, he used to be a hawk and a hardliner who the U.S. could work with. Although it seems like he's, I don't know if you call this turning this into his Vietnam, or or whatever, what have you. But he seems to have gone really far off the edge in this. Maybe he's not the same Netanyahu that a string of Democrats and Republicans were used to working with.
Well, I mean, he's clinging to power there too. In the almost in the same sense of like, if he leaves office, he might go to prison, sort of Trump style.
Right.
But I think there's also, and I'm not Jewish, clearly with a wild German last name.
Mm-hmm.
But I get the sense, and as I read and as I talk to my Jewish friends, that the issue of the hostages is non-negotiable.
Right.
In Israel right now, and
yes.
and that they will go through hell to get them back, or to
Yes.
punish those responsible for that. And since Iran has stuck its nose into things, and Hezbollah has started to launch stuff over the border, I think Netanyahu extends that into his belief that we have to defend ourselves from the people who want us gone.
Yeah.
And there's probably a certain level of support inside his country for that.
Yeah. Let's go to Pennsylvania.
This is you, man. You've been like camped out over there.
You're
officially a Pennsylvania road warrior.
Miners. I got a miner's lamp now. The headlamp on the and the cough. To match.
That's your canary.
Yeah. Whoa, boy. I'll tell you, man. Both of the campaigns seem to be focusing so much on Western PA. And I'm kind of wondering now. I mean, obviously that is coal country. That's the Marcellus Shale. This is why you get this whole debate over fracking, whether Harris, where she stands in her heart on fracking, and I'm kind of wondering if it's a mistake. Because it's not it is a large chunk of votes. It's, I think the last number I saw is like 20% of the electorate. But I'm wondering if they don't need to be doing more in Philadelphia, which comes out about 34%. Philly in the metro region there comes out to about 34% of the state. Because if you spend all your time in one area and you don't do enough in Philly, then you might not get the turnout that you need. You get into these, obviously this is a replay of 2020, the court cases that are going on. I mean, what would you do? I mean,
But
you've
you
done
have turnout
campaigns.
questions in Pennsylvania or in Philly?
What's
Like,
that?
are there any reason to be concerned about turnout in Philly?
Counting of the mail-in ballots. That's a big one. What gets counted? They're still in court in the
That's just
state
going to
court,
be a slow count. That's not necessarily a turnout issue, though,
or
is it?
what's valid. But you do have to. But also too, you got to be on the air down there. I don't know. I mean, I look at this and I think, are you going to get people who used to be coal miners and now work, on natural gas fracking and associated industries? Are those votes that are gettable?
Well, I mean, those blue collar voters have proven since 2016 that they are far more likely to vote for Trump than any sort of blue collar union voter in a generation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a fight for her to keep them in the coalition, but I think she has to have them, right? I mean, your
You have
suburban
to.
moms in Philly aren't going for Donald Trump.
Right.
The African American population of the city of Philadelphia isn't going for Donald Trump. So the votes to get out there are probably those blue collar union, more center left to center
Hmm.
right than
Yeah.
the progressives that are going to be coming out for her anyway.
Interesting. Do you feel like, I was looking at some of this recently, the focus from some of the conservative groups on transgender issues, hitting Harris repeatedly on this, seeing a lot of ads on this. Is that effective? Because they're targeting the suburbs and the women
I
with
don't
that
get
with
it.
that.
I don't get that strategy at all. Like
Hmm.
the Trump campaign's national ads are about transgender prisoners. What the hell are you doing? I cover a ton of legislative races in Illinois, where I write my Illinois specific uh, newsletter, and the number of Republicans that refuse to talk about cost of living,
Hmm.
and instead they'll talk big picture taxes or big picture spending, or Democrats that want to talk about abortion or guns. Nobody's talking about cost of living. That's it. That's
Interesting.
the only thing that matters to most people.
Wow.
And polling shows it, doors show it, everybody sees it, everybody knows it, and candidates are nowhere to be found. And I get
Wow.
that it's a really hard issue because you don't want deflation,
Yeah.
you don't want the economy to tank. You don't want price controls because then you're going to get hit
Right.
like Harris with the socialist stuff. Talk about wages, talk about property taxes.
Hmm.
You know, there are ways around this, but instead we're just avoiding the issue that matters to everybody who goes to the grocery store.
Interesting. Because
I
that used to be
still
the
haven't
knock
heard
on the
Kamala Harris
Democrats,
talk
that they
about the
weren't
price of
talking
milk.
about it.
She
Didn't
still
they?
hasn't talked about the price of milk, the price of eggs. We've
Yeah.
talked about the price of eggs every time we've done one of these things for the last 2 months. And
Who
she
did a good one was Angela Also Brooks, Democrat here in Maryland.
Go Hogan,
Yeah. Yep.
Team Hogan, hashtag Team Hogan.
I do think she did a very good ad with that, actually. It's one of these, kitchen table type things where she's, got a gallon of milk out and, got the eggs out. And, every time I see that, I think of Ghostbusters, cooking on the countertop.
Well, there's a video of Carrie Lake in the meat section at a grocery store where it
Okay.
starts out really, really smart, and then she just goes completely off the rails. Like, you get
Did she
E
talk
for
about,
effort, but F for everything else.
she have Chinese thermostats changing the price on the meat?
Oh my gosh. This chuck roast stole the election.
First it stole my arteries, then it stole the election.
We're almost there. It's so silly.
We're
but
so there, man. All right. Tom LoBianco here, 24 Site News, guys. Keep on coming on back. 24sight.news. Patrick Pfingsten, where do we find you?
My Illinois stuff is at theillinois.com, ILLINOIZE.com. And then we'll have more stuff for you guys soon.
Boom. Awesome.